Welcome to the Do More podcast, where we share strategies and tips for improving your life in every aspect. Here's your host, John Farling.
All right, welcome to the show. Today's show is on site of actually a storage facility I already own. I'm in town because I'm in contract on two more in this town. I call it a town, but it's a city. There's about, I believe, 50 to 75,000 people within 5 mile radius. So today I wanted to kind of briefly go over what I look for while I'm on site of a facility that I'm going to purchase. So we'll pretend that, again, this is one that I already own, but we'll pretend that I'm here basically doing due diligence. So the one that I own, or the one that I'm in contract on, or two of them that I'm in contract on, they're both a little different. One has no gate, no fence. It's just a little bit different from what I've owned, so I'll have to operate it differently. The other one does have fencing gate and I believe cameras. Maybe not, but they're both somewhat smaller. So the improvements that I'll make will be somewhat simple and won't cost a lot of money. But let's get into due diligence while you're on site. So for this one's pretty clean. When I was looking at this one, the main things I was looking at was the doors, and that includes opening them and also looking at the latches. It's kind of latch you have. That one's actually an auction unit. That's one of our auction locks. So I'm looking at how the doors operate, how clean it is inside. Looking at the latch, there are different latches. The latch that I'm not crazy about are the cylinder locks, where each unit has its own key. You can make it work. I don't have a facility like that, but I prefer the locks or the latches that you can put a lock on. Just makes things simpler. So I look at that, the doors, and then I look at this one is asphalt. I would say, 30-40% of mine are stone. This one's asphalt, obviously. There is more maintenance. There's maintenance either way. You're going to have, and I'm in Ohio, so I've got snow. With stone, it's very hard to get rid of the snow. So it is, with the snow, the asphalt, I will say, is easier, or concrete. But yeah, it's, to me, it doesn't bother me, but you do want to look at the drainage. I've got a facility that does have kind of drainage issues that I will have to address here somewhat soon. But again, this one is pretty clean. It's got a drainage ditch here. You can see the drainage there. There's drainage in every aisle. So this one didn't have a problem with any of that. As far as, the stone or asphalt or whatever, I didn't have any issues there or any capital improvements needed. From there, I'm looking at the roof. So this one, not all of them. When I started, for the most part, the facilities that I bought when I first started buying storage, they were pretty clean. I didn't really have to get up on the roof. This one I did, even though this is a cleaner one. It was just something that I was here. I had my ladder on my truck and just decided to get up on the roof. This roof is pretty clean. I believe at some point they did have leaks. But from what I remember, the patches that you could see the patches done, and it's a metal roof. So that makes it a lot simpler. I do have one facility with asphalt shingles, makes things a little bit tougher to repair. For that one, fortunately, I've got a buddy in town that I grew up with that is a roofer, and he's awesome at making repairs and does a good job. So I'm able to do that. But if I could pick, absolutely would rather have a steel roof, metal roof, just easier. They're going to last a lot longer. Replacement's going to be higher, but you shouldn't have to replace them for, 30, 40 years. In fact, I think I've got couple of them that are probably pushing 30, 40 years, and they're fine. You do have to replace the screws every once in a while or caulk around the screws. Let's see. Another thing I'm looking at is the fence. So this one I did add a fence and gate all the way around. Was not fenced or gated. This is, I want to say it's about 2 acres, maybe a little bit more, 3 acres maybe. You can see the gate over that way. So I had to add all that. And actually this one, they had to do quite a bit of work with direct boring underground. So my so-called mechanical room this is kind of turning into a site tour too, but my mechanical room is down this row, and it's just an old unit that the previous owner used as an office. For myself, I just use it as storage and my mechanical room. So the electrical panels in there, has a few outlets, and then we store supplies in there. It's a 10 by 10 unit. I do that for most of my properties. So for this one, we had to go, I don't know, it's probably 200 feet maybe from the keypads, gate and keypads, to the mechanical room, which is where the electrical panel is. And they had to bore underground here. So they made a connection there, and then they had to, that's one side of the building, and then they had to run pipe along the top up there and shoot over and put keypads on the other side of that building, and then on the outside of the gate. So, and then, here they had to put the motor in as well. So quite a bit of boring. Was relatively expensive. I included the costs of the capital improvements, so the fence and the gate and the motor and all the controls and the cameras. I included that all in into my loan, so I was able to get that built into my loan, which was nice. Another thing I look at while I'm on site are the lights. This one, I believe they're LED. To be honest, I don't think I've been at one of my sites at nighttime, but I do have cameras, and we'll get into that next. So for the most part, all mine are pretty well lit. This one has, I believe, a few that are going out, but it's a very well lit facility. I can tell from my cameras, you can see everything. And from there, I'm looking at cameras. Right, there's one of mine. And if I don't have cameras, I'm getting a quote. At this point, with the number of facilities that I've done, and the guy I use is awesome. He is in Ohio, and if anyone needs a camera guy, reach out to me. He will travel, but I know he's traveling a little bit less this year. But he's awesome. And does if there's an issue with having to, like I had to bore underground with the keypad here, sometimes you may have to do that with cameras. He's pretty good at being creative. I believe he's putting in, I don't want to say they're hotspots. I forget what they're called. They're basically Wi-Fi signals bouncing from building to building to where you don't have to pipe underground, which is nice. But yeah, I'm looking at cameras, and I had to add cameras to this one when I took over. And let's see, did I hit everything that I look at? Obviously, I'm looking at the shape of the buildings, or not the shape, but the how beat up they are, if they've been hit. This one has bollards on every core. Well, 2 of the buildings don't have bollards. Over there, they don't have bollards. But again, this is a pretty clean facility. Don't have, from what I know, we don't have any issues with the sides or the corners or anything being bumped into. And there's a good reason. These drive aisles, this one's a little bit narrower, but you've got the grass there too. So who knows? People probably pulling there every once in a while to get more clearance. But these drive aisles are very wide. Even if you've got a huge U-Haul truck in here or trailer, you should not have an issue getting around these corners. So again, this is a pretty well-kept facility. Other than that, it's those are the main things I'm looking for. And these are all obviously physical things that you're looking at when you get on site. A lot of times I know some people do this differently. Some people will get under contract without seeing it in person, without seeing the facility in person, and they will do these items in the 30 to 60 days or maybe more due diligence that they have while they're under contract. Myself, I'm buying in Ohio near me. So I am more than likely visiting the seller. Now, this facility was listed, but I knew the seller. But I'm meeting the seller on site. And at some point I'll probably go further into this, another show. And I'm looking at the site while we're here. So my due diligence is pretty much done for the most part before I even make an offer. I have an idea what the issues are. And I'm walking around here probably making some people dizzy. But I have an idea before I make an offer what's going to go in the facility, what issues there are, if there are issues. And that's going to be, I'm going to make my offer based around all that information. So my due diligence is pretty simple. Really the biggest things I'm looking for on site, again, are doors. And that includes springs, latches, how the door rolls, everything. If paint's coming off, all that stuff. So doors, roof, what the ground is, which includes the material and the drainage. And then I'm looking at cameras, right? And seeing how I'm going to be able to put cameras in. And then the fifth big one is fence, gate, keypads, all that. So those are the main things that I'm looking for. 5 main things that I'm looking for when I'm doing due diligence on site. Again, I do things a little bit differently. I already know what I'm looking at as far as location, because location is important. This one is probably not a great road location, but most people are finding storage rentals online nowadays, so that's not a big deal. So yeah, location for me isn't all that important as far as what road it's on. I want to make sure I'm in town or as close to in town as possible. But yeah, other than that, that's all I've got today. Feel free to reach out. Appreciate everyone that's listening, watching. Obviously this one will probably be better if you can watch it on YouTube, and will be on YouTube. You can find my channel. It's just, I believe, under John Farling, and feel free to reach out. Appreciate you guys listening. Thanks.
Thanks for following, subscribing, and listening to this episode of the Do More podcast hosted by John Farling. To learn more or ask questions, go to l4investing.com.